in Mecca. And if they learned that you're coming to liberate Mecca, they might mistreat my family. But that has no support there. And who may protect their family members there. Umar ibn Khattab was very angry to the extent that he said, Hatib has become a hypocrite. Let me kill him, or Prophet of Allah. But look what the Prophet ﷺ said. He didn't look at the mistake, no matter how grave it is, but he looked at the history of this companion, Hatib Abi Balta'a, who served Islam, who stood beside the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in very hard times, who sacrificed his life, his wealth. He was a businessman in Mecca. He came to Medina, migrating with nothing. And he remembers the Prophet ﷺ, what Hatib has done to the Prophet, to the companions. He remembered the situation in the battle of Uhud, when the Prophet ﷺ was declared to be dead, when his teeth was broken, when his face was beaten to the extent that the blood was really over his face. And Hatib came to look for the Prophet, to the Prophet ﷺ in the battlefield, and he saw him in this situation. He said, "O Prophet of Allah, who did this to you?" He said, "It is Utbah ibn Abi Waqqas." He said, "Show him to me." He showed him, the Prophet to him. Hatib flied like a falcon to Utbah until he slaughtered him and brought his head to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made dua to Hatib, said, "Jazakallahu khayra, Jazakallahu khayra, radiyallahu ank." May Allah be pleased to him. This incident is lingering in the mind of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is an evidence that Hatib was in the point of weakness toward his family in Mecca. It was not an act of hypocrisy. It was not an act of treason. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Umar, don't do that to Hatib. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has looked at the people of Badr and he said, do whatever you want to do, no matter what you do, I have forgiven you." Although Quran was revealed to Hatib to warn against this action, say it's not really accepting this action, but his forgiveness of the Prophet ﷺ, where Allah said, "Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tattakhidhu aduwwi wa aduwwakum awliya." All people who believe, don't take my enemy and your enemies as allies. This ayah was revealed on Hatib, may Allah be pleased with him. Hatib was playing a very important role in the life of Muslims as well, that the Prophet ﷺ remembers when he sent him to Al-Muqawqis. He was the king of Egypt at that time. Hatib was having this character, and this is another issue that we talked about earlier, and how the Prophet ﷺ would see in his companions personality differences, which distinguishes each person from another, and each one will play a role that others cannot play. And this is one of the features of leadership that Michael Hart, in his book about the greatest 100 leaders, and put the Prophet ﷺ, ranked the Prophet on the top. This is one of the features that the Prophet ﷺ was exercising his leadership skills in the best way possible by selecting people for the best mission that they would do. Hatib was the Prophet's envoy to Egypt because of many reasons. Hatib was a poet, he was a businessman, he knows how to treat people, he was a handsome man, taking care of his dress, therefore would be a good representative of the Prophet ﷺ in front of the king of Egypt. He took the letter of the Prophet ﷺ to the king of Egypt and gave it to him, where the Prophet ﷺ was inviting Al-Muqawqis to Islam. Al-Muqawqis said to Hatib, if your friend, meaning Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was a true prophet, why didn't he make dua against his people that Allah will persecute him, will punish them because of what they have done to him? He said, don't you remember Isa ibn Maryam, our prophet and your prophet, although his people wanted to crucify him and kill him, and he didn't really make he didn't ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to wipe them out. He said, you are a wise man coming from a wise man. To the extent that he gave him gifts. Among the gifts that Al-Muqawqis gave to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Mary al-Qibtiyya, who became later on one of the mothers of the believers. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam realized how grave this mistake is. It is high treason against the Muslim community. But he did not forget the history, the bright history of this man who sacrificed his life for Allah, for the Prophet, who proved through all these years, more than years, he became among the early companions who accepted Islam in Mecca, that he was a true believer and a true companion of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is, a prophet is setting an example for us, not looking at the mistakes of people that we love, people that we treat, that the people that we live and forget about their good deeds that have been doing in the past. غفر الله لي ولكم والمسلمين أجمعين. May Allah forgive me and you and guide us to the best, to learn from the character of the greatest man ever walked on earth, your prophet, my prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا.
شهر الرحمة والنفحات، سبيل هداية وقرب من الله بالصالحات. قناة زاد العلمية، هدى وبينات.
خضار وفائدة. القرنبيط. القرنبيط أو القنبيط أو الزهرة أو الشفلور، واسمه العلمي براسيكا أوليراسيا فار بوتريتيس، نوع من الخضار، وهو نبتة غنية بالمواد الكبريتية. ويقول علماء التغذية إنه من أكثر الخضروات احتواء على مادة الفوسفور، فهو لذلك مقوٍ للبنية، وله العديد من الفوائد والقيم الغذائية الأخرى. فهو يعزز الهضم لاحتوائه على كميات كبيرة من الألياف والماء المهيمن للوقاية من الإمساك وتنظيم عملية الهضم. ويتميز القرنبيط بدوره الكبير في الحفاظ على صحة الجهاز المناعي وخفض فرص الإصابة بأمراض تسببها الالتهابات المختلفة، والحماية من العديد من الأمراض مثل مرض القلب التاجي والجلطات وارتفاع ضغط الدم. ويحتوي القرنبيط على مضادات أكسدة مفيدة في تقليل فرص الإصابة بسرطان الثدي وسرطان الأعضاء التناسلية وسرطان القولون والرئة. ويحتوي القرنبيط